Good morning, children. This is chapter electrolysis, lecture 1. In this lecture, we will study about electrolysis, electrolytes, electrolytic cell, electrolytic dissociation, ionization, etc. What are conductors? Metallic conductors as well as electrolytic conductors. Any substance that allows the passage of electricity is called an electrical conductor. Conductors are generally of two types. The first one is most of the metallic elements and their alloys in solid or molten state conducts electricity. These are called metallic conductors. These elements do not undergo any chemical change during the passage of electricity. The metals like iron, copper, aluminium, all these can conduct electricity. All of you know about it. Metallic elements and their alloys in solid or molten state, they can conduct electricity. The second one, many non-metallic compounds conduct electricity in aqueous medium or in molten state, but not always in solid state. Okay, these get decomposed during the passage of current. Such compounds are called electrolytes. See, solution of CuSO4, any salt, NaCl salt, these all are electrolytes. When you will pass electricity through them, they decompose. Okay. Some non-metallic compounds do not conduct electricity at all, whether in solid, molten or aqueous state. And you all know about it. These are called non-electrolytes, like sugar solution. Differences between metallic conductor and electrolyte. Metallic conductor, for example, copper wire, and electrolytic conductor, say CuSO4 solution. The first one, flow of current consists of a single stream of electrons. Now, as it is electron, flowing of electron, it will flow from negative pole to positive pole. And in electrolytic conductors, flow of current consists of two streams. One of the positive cation flowing towards the negative cathode, and the other one negative anion flowing towards the positive anode. Okay. The second point, metallic conductivity is the property of the metal or alloy. But electrolytic conductivity is the property of the electrovalent compound. Okay. Next, third point, metals both in solid and liquid state are good conductors of electricity. But electrolytes are good conductors only in aqueous solution or in molten state. Fourth point, no change of form or in composition occur during conduction of electricity. No change in composition, but new products are formed at the electrodes. So this electrolyte involves a chemical change, but this is involving only a physical process, physical change. This is a physical change. Metallic conductor, it's a physical process, but for electrolyte it is a chemical change. Number 5, current carrying particles are electrons. For metallic conductor, the flow of electron, okay, for metallic conductor, so these are extremely small, but For electrolyte, current carrying particles are ions, which are bulky bodies compared to electrons. Am I clear? So some definitions: electrolysis and electrolytes. Electrolysis is the process of decomposition of a chemical compound. In aqueous solution, this is very important, in aqueous solution or in molten state, accompanied by a chemical change by using direct current. And what is electrolyte? Electrolytes are compounds which allow electric current to pass through them, either in aqueous solution or in molten state. Example of electrolytes: acids such as H2SO4, HNO3, H3PO4, HCl. Bases such as NaOH, KOH, NH4OH, CaOH2. And the salts such as NaCl, CuSO4, PbBr2. All these are electrolytes. And that is why H2SO4 used in dissociation of water, as it is a good electrolyte. Okay, because pure water is non-conductor. So we are using little bit of H2SO4, making it conductor. Non-electrolytes are compound which neither in aqueous medium nor in molten state allow the passage of electricity. That means they do not allow the passage of electricity, whether it is in aqueous medium or in molten state. Say for example distilled water. Just now I told you alcohol, benzene, all are non-electrolytes. They are not allow the electricity to pass. Now next is coming strong and weak electrolytes. Electrolytes may be classified as strong and weak electrolytes depending upon their conductivity and ability to dissociate into ions. Okay, acids and alkalis ionize when dissolved in water, whereas bases and salts dissociate into ions in fused, or you can say molten, fused is also molten state, or in their aqueous solution. So what they are saying? Acids and alkalis ionize when dissolved in water, but bases and salts dissociate into ions if it is in the molten or fused state, or if you can dissolve it in water, that is in their aqueous solution. All inorganic salts are generally strong electrolytes. They make acidic, basic or neutral solutions when completely dissociated. Some salts which are more volatile in nature than the other and do not completely dissociate may be called weak electrolytes. For example, HgCl2, NH4, CO3, these salts are known as weak electrolyte. They are more volatile in nature and they do not completely dissociate. So they are known as weak electrolyte. For strong electrolyte, it should be fully dissociate into ions. Differences between strong and weak electrolytes. Strong electrolytes, which allows a large amount of electricity to flow through them, and weak electrolytes, which allows a small amount of electricity to flow through them. Next, these are good conductors of electricity. These are poor conductors of electricity. The third point, these are almost completely dissociated in fused or aqueous solution state. but these are partially dissociated in fused or aqueous solution state. Number 4, these solutions contains almost only free mobile ions because they are completely dissociated. So they will dissociate into ions. So we are getting only free mobile ions, which ions can move from here to there. But for weak electrolytes, this solution contains ions, and as they are not fully ionized, they are partially ionized, so we will get ions also and molecules also. Now, number 5, strong electrolytes allow a bulb to glow brightly, but weak electrolyte allows a bulb to glow dimly. Now, for example, acid, hydrogen chloride, sulfuric acid, nitric acid, they are weak, they are strong electrolyte. But carbonic acid, acetic acid, oxalic acid, all are weak electrolyte. Bases, NaOH, KOH, in aqueous or molten state, they are strong electrolyte. But ammonium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide in aqueous or molten state, they are weak electrolyte. Salts, NaCl, that is molten or aqueous, PbBr2, that is molten state, CuCl2, aqueous, copper sulfate aqueous, they are the example of strong electrolyte. But salt of ammonium carbonate, lead acetate, they are weak electrolyte. Now here some example of ionization or electrical dissociation of acid, bases and salts given. Just see, if it is a strong electrolyte, hydrochloric acid will dissociate in this way, H plus and Cl minus. That means it is dissociate into its ion. HNO3, H plus and NO3 minus, fully completely dissociate, only ions will be there. Sulfuric acid will dissociate as 2H plus and SO4 2 minus, because I am having H2, so 2H plus and SO4 2 minus, completely dissociate. Weak electrolytes, you just see acetic acid, they are having CH3, COO minus and H plus. Okay. Formic acid, they will dissociate into like this, HCOO minus, H plus. Clear? Now see the bases. KOH, K plus and OH minus, NaOH, Na plus and OH minus, LiOH, Li plus and OH minus. And weak electrolyte, that is NH4OH, NH4 plus and OH minus, CaOH whole 2, that is Ca2 plus and 2OH minus. Salts, strong electrolyte, lead bromide, Pb2 plus and 2Br minus in molten state, copper chloride, Cu2 plus and 2Cl minus, silver nitrate, Ag plus and NO3 minus in aqueous state, weak electrolyte, ammonium carbonate, 2NH4 plus CO3 2 minus, lead acetate, 2CH3 COO minus plus Pb2 plus. Okay. Electrolytic cell and electrochemical cell. Here we will talk about electrolytic cell first. It is a non-conducting vessel containing two electrodes. See, this is one electrode and this is another electrode. The electrode which is connected to the negative terminal of the battery is known as cathode, and the electrode which is connected to the positive terminal of the battery is known as anode. Okay, and these two electrodes are immersed in a solution of an electrolyte. Why? It is bringing a chemical reaction. And this whole setup is known as electrolytic cell. Electrolytic cells requires an outside source of electricity. This is, the battery is the outside source of electricity, which will give you DC current, direct current, to initiate the movement of ions between the two electrodes. From the electrolytic solution, when the current will pass, then it will dissociate into ions. Those ions will move towards the electrode. And for doing so, a chemical change takes place. Here, it is converting electrical energy to chemical energy. First, we are passing electricity. Because of the electricity, the electrolyte is breaking into two parts, ionizes into two parts, positive ion and the negative ion. Then these ions will move towards the electrode. Next is electrochemical cell. Now, electrochemical cell is a device which is used to convert chemical energy into electrical energy. First, the chemical energy, with that chemical energy, chemical reaction is taking place, and then because of that, electricity is forming, it's producing, it's converting chemical energy to electrical energy. Now, about the electrochemical cell, you will study in the higher classes. This is a setup shown for the electrochemical cell. Now, this simple voltaic cell, Daniell cell, all these are the example of electrochemical cell. When you will go to standard 12, you will study about that electrochemical cell. What are electrodes? I already explained what are electrodes. These are the gates through which electricity can pass or exit in an electrolytic cell. They are known as electrodes. These are two metal plates or wires or carbon rods. This can be metal plates, this can be wires, this can be carbon rods. They are immersed in the electrolyte through which the current enters and leaves the electrolytic cell. The electrode connected to the positive end of the battery is called anode, and the electrode connected to the negative terminal of the battery is called cathode. I already told you that. See, this is called anode, which is connected to the positive terminal of the battery, and this is cathode, which is connected to the negative terminal of the battery. Now, differences between anode and cathode. So, first one is anode and the second one is cathode. Number one, it is the electrode connected to the positive terminal of the battery. You all know about it. And cathode, it is the electrode connected to the negative terminal of the battery. Number two, anions migrate to anode. Anions migrate to anode, A to A. And cations migrate to cathode. Okay, so C to C. Number three, it is an oxidizing electrode. Oxidation takes place at anode. And for cathode, it is a reducing electrode and reduction takes place at cathode. Now we will talk about ions, that is cations and anions. The atoms or groups of atoms which carry a positive or negative charge are known as ions. Atoms which carry positive charge are called cation. You all know about it. And those carrying negative charge are called anions. Now let us see the differences between cation and anion. Cations are the positively charged ion and anions are the negatively charged ions. Now, cations migrate to cathode during electrolysis. Anions migrate to anode during electrolysis. And cations gains electron from the cathode and get reduced to become a neutral atom. Cation is having positively charged. That means they are having less number of electrons. So what they are doing when they are going to the cathode electrode, as cathode electrode is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, they are rich in electron. So when cations are going to cathode, they are gaining electrons which are present in the cathode and they get reduced. They are taking electron. Taking of electron is reduction. So they get reduced and they become neutral. They are having positive charge. So they are taking the electron and they become neutral atom. That means what? So just see the example. Na plus, Ca2 plus, Al3 plus. So if I am taking Na plus, when it is going to the cathode, they are taking one electron from cathode and they reduced themselves and forming sodium, becoming a neutral atom. Just the opposite of anions. Anions are negatively charged ions, so they are rich in electron. When they are going to anode electrode, they lose their electron because anode is connected to the positive terminal of the battery, so they are having less number of electron. So anions are richer in electrons, so when they will go to anode, they lose their electron and they get oxidized. Losing of electron is oxidation and they become neutral atom. For example, PO4 3 minus, Cl minus, SO4 2 minus, OH minus. So what is happening? Suppose I am taking Cl minus, they are losing their electron when they are going to anode. They are losing one electron, so they become neutral, Cl. Clear? They become neutral, Cl. Okay. Oxidation. Oxidation is defined as the process in which an atom or ion loses an electron or electrons. You can see here zinc atom, when it is losing 2 electron, it is forming Zn2 plus. Sodium, when it is losing 1 electron, it is forming Na plus. Now Fe2 plus is the ferrous ion. When it is losing 1 electron, it is forming ferric ion, Fe3 plus. S2 minus, when it is losing 2 electron, it is forming S. Okay, it is losing electron is always oxidation. Okay, so all these are the example of oxidation. Oxidation is also defined as a chemical process which involves addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen. Loss and gain of electron that we have seen. Okay. Loss of electron is oxidation, but oxidation can also be defined which involves addition of oxygen and removal of hydrogen. The example for addition of oxygen, C plus O2 is giving you CO2, addition of oxygen, so it is oxidation. 2 Mg plus O2 is giving you 2 MgO, oxygen is added, so this is also an example of oxidation. Okay. Now in the above reaction, carbon and magnesium get oxidized to carbon dioxide and magnesium oxide respectively by the gain of oxygen. What I told you. Removal of hydrogen is also oxidation. See the reaction H2S plus Cl2 is giving you 2HCl and S is coming out. That means from sulfur, hydrogen is removed. So removal of hydrogen is also oxidation. So we can say that hydrogen sulfide is oxidized to sulfur due to the loss of hydrogen. So what is an oxidizing agent? An oxidizing agent is one that oxidizes the other substance by either accepting electron or by providing oxygen or an electronegative ion or by removing hydrogen or an electropositive ion. So many things. Oxidizing agent that oxidizes the other substance. How? By accepting electron, by providing oxygen. Oxidizing agent I am talking about. So it is accepting electron, that is why it is oxidizing someone else. Or it can provide oxygen, or it can provide an electronegative ion, or by removing hydrogen or an electropositive ion. In the previous slide, oxygen and chlorine are oxidizing agent. Okay. Some example of oxidizing agent. The solids, please remember this, learn this example. Solids, manganese dioxide, red lead oxide, these are solid oxidizing agent. Liquids, hydrogen peroxide, nitric acid concentrated, sulfuric acid concentrated, bromide, etc. are the liquid oxidizing agent. And gaseous oxidizing agent, oxygen, ozone, chlorine, sulfur dioxide, etc. Similarly, about reduction. Reduction is defined as the chemical process which involves removal of oxygen or addition of hydrogen, just the opposite of oxidation. Now, removal of oxygen, CuO plus H2. Now, what is happening? Hydrogen is reacting with O and it is giving you Cu plus H2. That means oxygen is removed from copper oxide. So, copper is getting reduced here. Removal of oxygen. ZnO plus C, Zn plus CO. Copper 2 oxide and Zn2 oxide are reduced to copper and zinc respectively by the loss of oxygen. Next is addition of hydrogen. See the example Cl2 plus H2S. It is forming 2HCl. That means hydrogen is coming out from sulfur and it is adding with chlorine. So it is forming 2HCl. And sulfur is free. Now 3Cl2 plus 2NH3. Here also you can see nitrogen is separate and hydrogen is going and adding with Cl2. It is forming HCl. So in the above reactions, chlorine is reduced to hydrogen chloride due to the gain of hydrogen. So you can see here removal of oxygen or gaining of hydrogen, both are known as reduction. Like oxidizing agent, what are the reducing agent? A reducing agent is one that reduces other substances. How? By providing electrons. Okay, because providing electrons, they will give electron. Someone will take the electron and it will get reduced. So who is doing that activity? They are known as a reducing agent. So by providing electrons or by providing hydrogen or an electropositive ion or by removing oxygen or an electronegative ions, they are known as reducing agent. In the examples given in the previous slide, hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen sulfide and ammonia are the reducing agents. Okay. Some example of reducing agents. Solid reducing agent, a carbon, metals like zinc, aluminium, copper, sodium, stannous chloride and glucose. They are the solid reducing agent. And liquids, hydrogen peroxide, hydrogen iodide, hydrogen bromide, they are the liquid reducing agent. And gaseous reducing agent, hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, etc. Conduction in electrovalent and covalent compounds. Electrovalent compounds comprise oppositely charged ion. You all know about it. Electrovalent compound is NaCl. Okay, so they comprises oppositely charged ion, Na plus and Cl minus. Just remember how electrovalent compounds are formed. So, electrovalent compounds comprise oppositely charged ions held together by strong electrostatic force of attraction. Hence, in solid state, an electrovalent compound such as sodium chloride cannot conduct electricity despite the presence of ions, because in the solid state ions are not present. That is why always you have to dissolve NaCl in water and then only it can conduct electricity, because they are formed by electrovalent, they are electrovalent bond and they are having strong electrostatic force of attraction. However, when electrovalent compounds are melted or dissolved in water, the force of attraction between the ions are broken and the ions can move about freely and it can conduct electricity. Polar covalent compound also ionize in aqueous solution and conduct electricity. For example, HCl, NH3, H2, they are polar covalent compound. Remember that. So they can also conduct electricity because they ionize in aqueous solution. What is electrolytic dissociation? The process due to which an ionic compound dissociate into ions in the molten state or in aqueous solution is called electrolytic dissociation. Theory of electrolytic dissociation is first given by Arrhenius in 1887. He proposed a theory of electrolytic dissociation. What are these? According to him, what he said, a water-soluble electrolyte dissociates into mobile cation and anions that allows electric current through it. The electrolytes which are water-soluble, they dissociate into mobile cations and ions and allow electric current through it. Number 2, ions carry electric charge and are responsible for the flow of current through the solution. Third, conductivity of the electrolyte depends on the concentration of ion. Number 4, total positive charge is equal to the total negative charge and the solution is electrically neutral. Ions produced and the unionized molecules are in equilibrium. Next one, in non-electrolytes such as sugar, benzene, etc., only molecules are present and no ions, and hence they do not conduct electricity. Next is coming, very important thing, degree of dissociation. How much? What is the percentage of dissociation? Is the extent to which an electrolyte dissociates. How much? Suppose in a solution it is saying 80% dissociate. That means 80% of that solution will dissociate. That is known as degree of dissociation. It is there. I will come to this afterwards. I'll talk about this degree of dissociation afterwards. Degree of dissociation is the extent to which an electrolyte dissociates or breaks up into ions. These are the points given by Arrhenius. Now the difference between Arrhenius and the modern concept. Arrhenius considered that water ionized electrolytes. Arrhenius said that water ionized electrolytes, but modern concept considered that electrolytes are ionic even in solid state. But since the ions are held very strongly by electrostatic force of attraction, they remain immobile. They cannot move because their force of attraction is very strong. Hence, do not conduct electricity. Now, water breaks this electrostatic force and makes the ion mobile, which can now conduct electricity. I think it is clear to you. Arrhenius thought that water only ionized electrolytes. But modern concepts said that no, it is not that. Electrolytes are ionic even in the solid state, but as they are having very high, strong force of attraction between them, the ions are immobile. And that is why they do not conduct electricity. But when you are dissolving them in water, then water breaks that electrostatic force and makes the ion mobile. And if the ions are mobile, they will conduct electricity. So what are the characteristics of electrolysis? Number 1, passage of electricity through an electrolyte causes cations to migrate towards cathode and anions towards anode. This is all you know. Next, the number of electrons gained by the anode is equal to the number of electrons lost by the cathode. Next, electrolysis products form at the cathode and anode since the exchange of electrons takes place only at the cathode and anode surface. Next, only hydrogen and metals are liberated at the cathode. Very important, only hydrogen and metals are liberated at the cathode, and these are called electropositive elements. And this one, only non-metals are liberated at the anode, and these are called electronegative elements. This point and this point, these two are important points. Now, the mass of the substance produced at the electrode is proportional to amount of the electricity passed. This is again Faraday's laws of electrolysis. You will study when you will go to the higher classes. The mass of substance produced at the electrode is proportional to the amount of electricity passed. Next point, electrolysis process is a redox reaction. In one electrode, oxidation is going on, the other electrode, the reduction is going on. So it is a redox reaction. The reaction at the cathode is reduction of cations by gaining electrons to become neutral. And the reaction at the anode is oxidation as anion loses electron to become neutral. This point is also very important. Please read it properly. Try to understand. Okay. Last, alternating current AC does not cause any chemical change as electrolysis is caused by direct current. Electrolytic dissociation of sodium chloride. Now, solid sodium chloride is an electrovalent compound and its crystal structure contains Na plus and Cl minus ions. In solid state, the sodium and the chloride ions, they are not free. Why they are not free? Because they are held together by an electrostatic force. And their electrostatic force of attraction is very strong. And that is why they are not free. These ions are not free, and that is why they do not conduct electricity also, because they don't have free ions. Okay, so just see the figure. Ions are held strongly. You can see here the ions are held strongly. Now what is happening when we are dissolving sodium chloride in water? Then it is becoming the aqueous solution of sodium chloride or molten sodium chloride. When you are dissolving sodium chloride in water, then in water, that is negatively polarized oxygen atom present in water, H2O, so negatively polarized oxygen atom, that pulls the positively charged sodium ion towards it. Okay, similarly what is happening? Positively polarized hydrogen atom in water, that is pulling the Cl- ion towards it. And this results into freeing Na plus ion and Cl- ion. And they become mobile and they can conduct electricity. Now what is happening in the molten state? High temperature requires to melt the solid. And for that, if you are giving the high temperature, when the solid is melting, they weakens the bond between the particle. And ions are set free for conducting electricity. And that is why if you want to conduct electricity through sodium chloride, then you have to, it's not possible in the solid state, you have to dissolve it in water, you have to make it aqueous solution of NaCl, or you have to melt it, you have to form the molten sodium chloride. Okay. What is ionization? The process by which polar covalent compounds, please remember that it's polar covalent compounds are converted into ions in water solution is called ionization. Let us take the example of hydrogen chloride, HCl. You know that it's a covalent compound, but it's a polar covalent compound because they are having a very high electronegativity difference. So what is happening? This chloride ion will attract the electron from hydrogen, creating a delta positive charge over hydrogen and a delta negative charge over chloride ion, and they are forming this type of shape. This is hydrogen and this is chloride ion. Okay, so this is known as polar covalent compound. But in the gaseous state or in the pure liquid state, HCl is unionized and does not conduct electricity. Due to the electronegativity difference, HCl bond gets polarized. As I told you, I have explained this to you. And there is partial localization of positive and negative charge on H and Cl atom respectively. You see here, hydrogen is getting a delta positive charge and chlorine is getting a delta negative charge. Okay, now what like this it is forming. Now when the polarized hydrogen chloride is added, that means this one, when it is added to water, then what is happening? You just see this is the water, H delta H plus, H delta plus, here also H delta plus, and oxygen is getting a delta negative charge. Okay, if when hydrogen chloride, polarized hydrogen chloride is added with the water, then this polarized oxygen atom, this is the negatively polarized oxygen atom, attract hydrogen. This is positively polarized hydrogen atom and it is forming H3O plus. H2O and H plus is giving you H3O plus and Cl minus is coming out. It's a free Cl minus ion we are getting. It's giving you hydronium ion and free Cl minus ion we are getting. This is known as ionization. So let us see what is the difference between ionization and dissociation. The first is ionization and here it is dissociation. Ionization, formation of positively or negatively charged ions from molecules which are not initially in the ionic state. Okay, but dissociation, separation of ions which are already present in the ionic state, like NaCl, Na plus and Cl minus. They are already present as ion, but in solid they are not conducting electricity because of the strong electrostatic force of attraction. Okay, and for ionization, the formation of positively or negatively charged ion from molecule which are not initially in the ionic state, like HCl. It was not initially in the ionic state, but because of the electronegativity difference, a polarized positive and the negative charges occurring. And next one, polar covalent compounds show ionization, like HCl, NH4OH, etc. And electrovalent compounds show dissociation. Potassium chloride, lead bromide, etc. Okay. Now with this, lecture 1 ends here. In the next lecture, we shall study electrochemical series, which is very important, and some example of electrolysis.